Hello. We are now going to do the Excel Chapter 3 textbook project. So make sure that you have your file downloaded. And if you want to open your books to Chapter 3, you can do that, or open your ebook or whatever, or just listen to what I have to tell you. And let's get started. Okay, in Excel Chapter 3, we are getting into a little bit more formulas, a little more complex formulas. We're getting into what-if analysis. We're getting into larger charts, which is really not that big of a deal. It's just how you have to deal with, scaling and printing and things like that is really the only thing that a larger chart has to deal with. But it's the what-if analysis that we're going to work on. Of course, making things look right. We're going to work on some indentations in margins, or not in margins, but in cells, where you can kind of set things off a little bit different. And we're also going to get into what's called Sparklines. So those are kind of the main things in this chapter that we're going to be dealing with. So let's get started. In A1, we're going to type in Caitlin's Ice Cream Shop. And then in A2, we're going to type in 6-month financial projection. Okay, and we're going to apply the Save On theme to the workbook. So I'm going to go to, page layout, themes, and you can go down a bit. There's the Save On theme right there. So I'm going to apply that. Okay, next in cell B3, we're going to type January. If I could turn my caps lock off. Okay, so we've typed January, and now we're going to change the text alignment on this. Okay, so I'm going to, on my Home tab, and in my alignment group here, I'm going to open my dialog box launcher. Okay, and here in our alignment, you can see you can change the direction of your text. You can go straight vertical if you want to, or you can do a certain percentage. In our case, we are going to do a 60%. And you have to go up to go 60%. Okay, you can also use the up and down arrows to adjust it. And then I'm going to say OK. So there we are. Now we have it angled. From here, we're going to drag the fill handle across, and we're going to let Excel do this for us so that we don't have to type each month. And you'll see it increments each month. You're going to go to G3 so that we have June. Remember, we wanted a 6-month projection. Okay. This is called autofill. Okay. If you hit this little tooltip thing here for your autofill options, you'll see where you have different options that you can do. So you can just copy the cells and you would get January all the way across. You can do only the formatting, you can do it without formatting, so on and so forth. So lots of different options based on what you're filling. Okay, in H3, we're going to type total. And then we're going to type chart in I3. Okay. Now, we want to change column widths. Now, The book has you coming in here and going between A and B and moving it across to get to a certain number, which is fine. You can do it this way. There is no problem whatsoever with doing this. But as you can see, sometimes it's difficult to get exactly the number that you're wanting, which is 38. Okay, so we adjust A to 38. The way I prefer to do it, just simply because it's more accurate. I mean, yes, you have to get to the keyboard and you got to move your hand from the mouse and whatnot. But when you spend as much time trying to get the right number with your mouse, it takes more time to do that than it does to actually type it. So I'm going to right click on the cell heading, on the column heading that I want to adjust the width on. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say column width. And from here, now I can type 38 and it's done. You can do it any way you want to. Either way is perfectly fine. I just prefer to do it this way. I'm going to select B through G, and again we're going to adjust the column widths, and this one we want to be 14.5. Okay, then I'm going to adjust the column width of H to 18. And we're going to leave I the way it is. Okay, now we're going to put in some row headers. In A4, we're going to type in revenue. In A5, we're going to do cost of goods sold. A6 is going to be gross margin. We go down to A8, skip a line, and we're going to do expenses, bonus, commission, site rental, marketing, repair, and maintenance. Sorry, I put and maintenance at the end of that. Total expenses. And then in A16, you're going to say operating income. Okay, now we're going to select, we're going to change kind of the way these look. We've got two categories, revenue and expenses. Okay, so we want to indent these that are inside of those or underneath those categories so that you can tell that they're, a subcategory. So I'm going to select A5 and I'm going to do my increase indent. So that's here in the alignment tab. And here's your increase and there's your decrease. So I'm going to increase the indent one time. And I'm going to do the same thing through for A9 through A13. Increase indent. Okay, now we're going to add some more. This is going to be our what if analysis stuff. So in A18, we're going to do what if assumptions, what dash if, spell assumptions right, and then I'm going to select A9 through A13 and I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it down. So you can do this several ways. Right here in the home tab is copy. You can also do a Control-C for copy on your keyboard. And then I'm going to paste. You can actually right click on it and say copy as well. And then to paste is either a Control V on your keyboard, or you've got your paste up here, okay? Or again, you can right click and say paste. And we're going to paste everything as it is. These are your different options. You can do values without the formatting. You can do formulas, which we don't have any. You can transpose them so they go across. You can just do formatting, or you can paste a link. We don't want any of those. We want everything. Okay. Now, to get rid of this, so this tells you that you still have something in the buffer that you're going to copy. It really doesn't matter. As soon as you start typing, that's going to go away. But if you wanted to paste something again, then this is what you would be pasting. If you really want this to go away without typing something, just hit the escape key. Okay, now we're going to change some of our we're going to actually do some of inserting some of our rows. In row 20, we want to actually add a condition in between these two. Okay, so I'm going to right click on row 20 and I'm going to say insert. This inserts a row above where you are. Okay, it keeps the same formatting unless you change your formatting options. So you can do format same as above, same as below, or you can clear the formatting. In this case, above and below is exactly the same, so it really doesn't matter. We're going to do sales revenue for bonus. Okay, and then we're going to right click on 19 and we're going to say insert. And this time we are going to change our formatting and we want to say format same as below because we want that indentation because this is still a subcategory. And we're going to type margin in here. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to enter in our numbers for our what if analysis. So in B19, we're going to do 78.75%. B20 is 3,500. 1,000. 25%. And then 3.50%. Okay. So we have our numbers put in. And then we're going to now go into our projected monthly sales. So I'm going to enter in our revenue. And we're going to do 55,000. 62,500. So we've got our 6 months of projected revenue in, and now I want to sum this. So the easy way to do this is just click the auto sum twice, and it's going to put your total in there. Okay? Okay, now we're going to select cell H1 and we're going to insert a function. We're going to insert what's called a now function, which puts in today's date and time. So I'm going to hit this insert function button right here in the toolbar or in the formula bar. Okay, and under most recently used, I'm going to come down and say date and time. And then here under select a function, I'm going to come down and select now and say OK. Now it's going to come up and say this is a volatile function. Yes, it is. Okay, because every time that you work on or any time you open up this worksheet, that's going to change because now is a different time. And say OK. So it puts in the time. And now we're going to format that because we really don't want the hours and minutes. So we're going to right click and come down and say format cells. And under number, the number tab, we're going to do date. And then we're going to choose the 3/14/2012. So I think we have to up this one right here. Okay, so basically we're doing the date and not the date and the time. Say OK. Okay. Okay, we're going to double click between H and I to best fit our total instead of having it be as big as what it was. Okay, the other big thing that we're going to learn here in Chapter 3 is absolute versus relative referencing. And this is really, really important. It's a little confusing at times, but it's very, very important. Okay, relative referencing is in formulas and functions is what we've already been doing. It's what we did in Chapter 2. When we create a formula or a function and we say equal A1 times B1, for instance, okay? And then we copy that formula, okay, to other cells. It changes our cells for us based on where we copied it to. That's why it's called relative. So when you copy a formula, copy or move a formula or a function, it's going to change that cell reference for you, okay, based on where you move it. So if you move it over 2 columns, it's going to change the cell reference over 2 columns. If you move it down 2 rows, it's going to change the cell reference by 2 rows. That's why it's called relative, okay? Well, there are instances, and this is an example of one, where we don't want a cell reference to change. So like we might use this margin, this percentage here for margin to calculate something. And if we're going to do that, then how in the heck, we don't want to have to put 78.75% all the way across. So we use what's called absolute referencing. Absolute referencing basically says, I don't care where you move this formula or function, you can move me to Timbuktu. I ain't going to change. It's very stubborn that way. So absolute referencing is very important. When you're working on some of these formulas and you're not getting the right numbers, check your referencing. Check your absolute versus your relative referencing, because maybe you need to use absolute referencing, or maybe you need to use relative referencing where you were using absolute. Okay, so let me show you exactly what we're going to be doing here. So in cell B5, we're going to type the equal sign, and we're going to select B4, and I need to actually make those a little bit bigger because that's messing up my stuff. Okay, so I'm going to equal sign, and I'm going to select B4, and then I'm going to do a times, B4 times, 1 minus B19. Okay, now again, the problem with this, and let me show you what happens. So I used relative referencing, just like we've been doing. If I take this now and I copy it over, what happens? I get the same numbers as above, right? Because if you look in your formulas, it's moved my cells over. Well, we don't want that. We want it to always stay here at B19, okay? So in our formula, I'm going to put my cursor here anywhere inside of B19, and I'm going to hit the F4 key, okay? Sorry, F4. Okay, if I hit F4, you'll notice it puts the dollar signs, and you can type those dollar signs. You don't have to hit F4. You can type $B, $19. That dollar sign, when you work with a cell reference, means absolute. Don't move me. And so it says, do not change the B, do not change the 19. You can do mixed referencing where you can do like a B $19 or a $B19. In that case, it means don't change the B, but change the 19. So I could move my formula up and down and my cells would change, my cell rows would change. But if I moved it left and right, my B column would not change. So that's mixed referencing. We're not going to really get into that today, but I thought I'd let you know what that is. Okay, so now notice we get the same number as we did before. Now if I copy this across, now my calculations, if we look again here, B19, it didn't move. My cell here changed, okay, but my cell here did not change. That is absolute referencing. Okay, now our gross margin is going to be B4 minus B5. Kind of makes sense, right? Our revenue minus the cost of goods sold. And then I'm going to copy that across as well. And actually this total I didn't want to copy. Okay, so the book has you wait to copy these until we finish doing everything down here as well. I'm sorry, everything down here. I wanted to do it now so that you could see what that absolute referencing did. It really doesn't matter when you copy it. It's not going to grade it based on when you did each step. It's just going to grade that the formulas inside are correct. Okay, so now we're going to go to B9. The other thing that we're introducing in this chapter are what's called if statements. So they're conditional statements. They're conditional formats. So we've already done a little bit of conditional formatting where you format a cell based on a value in that cell. Okay, so if that cell is, you know, greater than a number, then format it a different color. If not, keep it the way that it is. Well, the same thing can be applied in formulas, okay? If a condition is met, I want to do one calculation. If it's not met, then I want to do another calculation, okay? So, for instance, is our sales revenue greater than or equal to $65,000? Yes, then we get a bonus. No, then we don't get a bonus. Okay, so we have to do that if statement to determine here if we get the bonus. Okay, so we're going to do an insert function. And this time I'm going to choose logical. And then I'm going to choose if. Okay, our logical test. What are we testing? What is our condition? Okay, the condition is the condition is if our gross margin, sorry, not our gross margin, but our revenue, is our revenue greater than or equal to, right here, our sales revenue for bonus. Okay, Now, when you're doing these formulas and functions, now that you know about absolute referencing, you need to think to yourself, do I need to use absolute referencing? So what's going to happen when we move this formula? Do we want this number to change? Do we want this cell reference to change? Well, this one we do want to change. This one we don't. Okay, so in here, we're going to do an F4 again to make that an absolute reference. So that's our logical test. Okay, from this point forward, you need to ignore what these numbers are. Okay, so yes, we can tell visually just by looking at it that 55,000 is less than 65,000. So our bonus is going to be 0. Okay, but we still have to give the function or the formula, the function, this is a function, we still need to give the function a true condition and a false condition. Even though we know what the answer is, that answer could change. You know, what if this is a projection? Okay, what if we come back and we're now doing a projection for the next 6 months, okay, or the next year, and this number changes to 75,000, okay? Then we want this to change, but if we only gave it a false value because our current condition is false, then it wouldn't know what to do for true. Okay, so for value for true, we're going to take B20, or it is just B20. There's not a calculation. You just get a flat bonus. Okay, so our value of true is B20. Again, do we want absolute referencing? When this formula is copied, do we want this cell to change? No, we don't. So we're going to do F4 again. Okay, and then our value, if it's false, is going to be 0. And then say OK. And now you can see our if condition worked, okay, because we got a 0. If I copy this over, here in March is where we should be getting an actual bonus, and we do. That means our if condition is working properly because we now have a true and a false value, and it works. Okay. In B10, we are going to calculate the commission. Okay, so it's equal sign again, B4, which is our revenue, and then we're going to multiply it by B22, which is our value, our percentage for commission. Again, we want absolute referencing, so I'm going to do F4. And from here, I'm going to do all the formulas down, and then we'll copy them. Okay. The next one is the site rental. Okay, equal our revenue times our site rental. And again, we want F4. And then our marketing. So it's basically the same calculation. It's got different percentages. And then equipment, repair, and maintenance. Okay. And then our total expenses, we're going to sum it twice. So there's our total expenses. And then our operating income is going to be equal our gross margin, B6, minus our total expenses. Okay. Now, this is all well and great, okay? But if we wanted to check our formulas, we'd have to click in each one of these cells to see what our formulas are. Well, there is an easier way. If you hold down your control key and you hit the accent mark, and the accent mark is the key that is above the tab on your keyboards. Okay? It actually displays your formulas. Okay? It shows formulas. You can do this. There's a button somewhere. Oh, under formulas, duh. Okay, under formulas, here's show formulas button right here. Okay, so you can uncheck that, open it up, and you get to see all your formulas. Okay, so this is just an easy way to go through and be able to double check what your formulas are. Okay, so I'm going to take that off. And now I want to copy my cells. So I'm going to take B10 through B14. I'm going to hold the Control key and select B16. I think that's how they want you to do it. No, they just took everything. Okay, take everything, because this really is not going to copy anything anyway. Take your fill handle and drag it across. Okay, fills everything in for us, and notice again, our absolute references did not change, which is what we wanted. Okay, now we want to calculate the sum in all of these. So this is really nice also. I'm going to select H5 through H6, hit the Control key, H9 through H14, hit the Control key, or keep the Control key down, your Control key should be selected this whole time, or pressed, and then I'm also going to select H16. Now I'm going to come over to the Home tab and hit Auto Sum, and then it calculates the sum for all of those at once, so that you don't have to select each cell and click Sum. Hit Cell, click Sum. You can do it all at once, which is a really nice feature. Okay, now we're going to add a sparkline. Okay, a sparkline is a form of chart, if you want to call it that actually fits in a cell. Okay, and this just gives the viewer a quick overview of the numbers. So you can immediately see what are the highs and what are the lows, so on and so forth. Okay, so in I4, we're going to put our cursor in I4. We're going to go to the Insert tab, and under Insert, you've got this Sparkline group, and I'm going to choose Line Sparkline. Okay, from here, my data range is going to be B4 to G4. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to select B4 through G4. Okay, location range is I4, which is exactly what we want, and say OK. And see how it gives this little, it's a graph inside of a cell. This is a sparkline. Okay. Now, we're going to change the sparkline style. So I'm going to hit the down arrow. Okay. And I want to change it to accent 4, darker 25%. I gotta remember which one it was. Give me just a minute. Okay. What they didn't tell you in the instructions, and it just kind of show you in the picture, but they want the dark green. Okay. So there's the sparkline style, accent 4, darker 25%. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just the book doesn't specify the dark green. So I'm going to choose that one. Okay. And then I'm going to copy this down all the way. Okay. You'll notice it doesn't put Sparklines into here because you don't need to. Okay. Now we're going to select the range I4 through I16, and you'll notice when you click in it, it just kind of selects it for you. Under your Sparkline tools, we're actually going to change this to be a column. So I'm going to click column so that now that looks a little bit different. Okay, at this point, let's go ahead and save this. I'm going to do a save as, and we want this to be I kind of skipped over it the first time, so I have to go back and find it again for you. There it is. So it's Caitlin's underscore ice cream shop financial projection, and then underscore your name. Okay. Very long name, but it is what it is. Okay. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on formatting. We're going to select B4 through H4. Okay. And we're going to do the dialog box launcher. We've got number. Okay. We're going to click currency. We want 2 decimal places. We want the symbol, the $ symbol. And then we want this black font for the negative numbers. And say OK. Now we're going to take B5 through H5, and we're going to hold down the control key. We're going to do B10 through H13. I skipped a step. So when we did this, okay, I should have held down the control key and selected these others as well. So we're going to do that now. B6 through H6, hold down the control key, B9 through H9, B14 through H14, B16 through H16, okay? And then dialog box launcher, currency, 2 decimal places, and then the black negative. Whoops. And I didn't put the currency. I selected the wrong thing. We want currency. Make sure the $ symbol is there and click OK. Did I get that all right? Yes, I did. So we want our black negative numbers. Okay. Now we want B5 through H5. Hold down your control key. B10 through H13. Okay. And then again, number dialog box, currency. This time we want to say none for the symbol, but we want the black negative same as before. Okay? Okay, next we're going to select cell A1. We're going to click bold. And we're going to increase the font size to 28. We're going to select A2 and increase the font size to 16. Okay. Then we're going to choose A1 through I2. We're going to change the fill color to green, green accent 4, green accent 4, this top one, green accent 4. Okay, and then we're going to change our font color to white background 1. Okay, then we're going to choose A3 through I3. And we're going to give it the heading 2 cell style. Okay, then we're going to choose A6 through H6. 14 through H14 and A16 through H16. And we're going to give it the total cell style. Okay. Select A4. We're going to press the fill color button, so it's going to do the last color that we did, as well as the last font color. Okay, when I messed up a little bit when we did bold. I was actually supposed to bold everything, this whole A column, and I didn't, so I apologize. So go back there, select your A column, click and unclick the bold, and we should be good. Yeah, this still has a total cell style, so it should be fine. Okay. Now we're going to select A4, and we're going to select the Format Painter. What the Format Painter does is it copies the format of the cell, and then you can apply it to other cells. So I'm going to select A6. Okay, so now it has the same cell style as before, as A4. We want to actually also apply this cell style to this operating income, okay, and actually this whole row. So in order to do that, I'm going to actually double click, okay. Double click means that after you click one cell, it's still going to stay active, okay. If you single click it, it's going to deactivate after one time. In this case, we want to do multiple, so I double click so that it stays active, and you'll notice my cursor is little paintbrush. So from here, now I'm going to select operating income all the way through total in 16. Okay, now you'll notice our currency numbers kind of went away. Now to get rid of our little paintbrush, I'm going to just click Format Painter again, or you can hit the Escape key. Okay, so now I'm going to come back in here. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to set the currency style so that we have that floating decimal again. Okay. Then cell A18, we're going to change the font size to 8. We're going to italicize and underline. Then A19 through A25, we're going to change that font size to 8. Okay. Then we're going to take this whole section, change our fill color, and change our font color. And then save it. Okay, next we're going to add a clustered column chart. So we want to select A3 through G3, and then we want to select A9 through G13. Okay, we're going to go to Insert, and we've got our recommended charts, and we want to choose the clustered column, which is going to be your first on the list. Okay, we're going to either right click on the chart and say move, move chart, or you can click the button up here, new sheet, and that's going to be expense chart. Okay, so now we have an expenses chart. Okay. The title, we're going to change to 6-month projected expenses. Select the text in here, and you're going to underline it. Okay, then we're going to add some chart elements. We're going to add data labels. So I'm going to hit my plus for the chart elements, and I'm going to choose the arrow for data labels, and I'm going to say outside end. Okay, then I'm going to shoot my cat because she's walking across my keyboard. Okay, then I'm going to hit my filter, and I'm going to uncheck bonus and commissions because we don't want it displayed right now. Bonus and commissions, and say apply. So now those go away. Okay, under our chart elements, we want an axis title. We want primary vertical. Okay, and then we're going to take and change this axis title and just make it a $sign. Okay, and then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say Format Axis Title, and this little window here opens up. Okay, we want this one, the size and properties, and then text direction, we want it to be horizontal, so we're basically just flipping it. Okay, you can close your format here. Make sure your chart's selected. Under your chart tools and design, we're going to hit our little more button here, and we're going to choose style 3. So it's this one. And then we're going to modify our vertical axis. So I'm going to right click on any number in the vertical axis and say Format Axis. Under our axis options, which is what we have open already, I'm going to click the number down here at the bottom. Okay. And I'm going to change the decimal places to 0. Okay. When you click out of that, you'll see your decimal places have gone away. And then I'm going to close my format. Okay, so the expense chart sheet, we're going to change the color of the sheet tab. Okay, so tab color. And we want it to be green accent 4. Okay, double click sheet 1, and we're going to name it 6-month financial projection. And there is a dash between the 6 and the month. Okay, and then we're going to change our sheet tab color on this one to be blue accent 2. And then we want to move this tab to before the chart. So I'm just going to click and hold. Notice my little arrow there, and then I'm going to move it over. Okay. Now we need to check the spelling on both sheets. So I'm going to actually click on the 6-month financial projection. Hold down your control key and then select the expense chart also. Now see how they're bolded and they're both together. Now I can spell check. Okay, yes, I want to continue. Spell check is complete, so did the whole thing. Okay. We're going to change our orientation of our worksheets. Okay, so keep them selected together, keep them grouped. We're going to go to File, and under Print, we're going to change our portrait orientation to landscape. Our scaling, we want to say fit sheet on 1 page. Okay, and again, I'm going to have to go back and fix that now. I'm going to ungroup my sheets and delete all those. Now I'm going to regroup my sheets and go back. And now it shows up properly. Okay, you can print it if you want to. You don't have to do that for me. Now I'm going to come back here and I'm going to ungroup my sheets by right-clicking on one of the sheet names and say Ungroup Sheets. Okay, they go through some examples of how you can split the windows into different, panes and views and things like that. I'm not going to go through all of that, but please do that just so that you are familiar with how to do it. I am going to go through the what if analysis. Okay. So we want to see row 4, and we're going to oh, they're splitting the window. We don't need to split the window. Okay. We just want to make sure, they're saying to split the window because you want to make sure that you can see this row as well as, as well as these rows, but ours is already that way, so we don't need to worry about that because they're just going to make you unsplit it later. Okay. In cell 5, in B20, we're going to change these numbers. So we're going to put 5,000. In B22, we're going to put 4%. I'm sorry, 22.5. And then 4% in B25. Some of our assumptions are changing. Okay. And you can see now that our numbers have changed. Okay. Here is now our grand total is 139,057.50. Okay. So now I'm going to select H16, this one. Okay. And I'm going to go to the Data tab. And I'm going to do a what if analysis. So I'm going to do what if analysis, and then I'm going to say goal seek. Okay. And I want to say H16, and I want this value to be 145,000, at least 145,000. Okay. So I'm going to put 145,000, and then by changing, and we're going to change the cell B23. Okay. So by changing that cell, and say, okay. So it goes through and it changes everything, and you can see it has to be, for B23, the site rental has to be 8.61% in order to make this type of a, to make that type of operating income. Okay, so basically they're saying, we don't want to spend more than this percentage in order to be able to get to it. Okay. From here, we're going to cancel it because we don't want to keep those numbers, but it's just showing you what it can do. Okay. Okay. They go through some other things on accessibility and smart lookup. Do those on your own as well. From here, we should be good. And save your workbook and submit it, and you're all done. Thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry for the interruptions, and we will see you for Chapter 4.